All right, everyone, here we are with ticker symbol TDAC, Trendant Acquisition Corp. And before we jump into this chart, I want to say welcome to all the first-time viewers and investors. Welcome to the channel. Invest for tomorrow. To all the subscribers, welcome back, and let's jump into this chart. But before we talk about this chart and everything we're going to discuss in this video, I do want to announce to all the first-time viewers and investors the launch of my website. I started it last week. investfortomorrow.com. There is a short video with the forward outlook on the website moving forward, and there is the different forums that you'll have access to once you become a member, such as the stock picks forum, the daily watch list, the gathering of investors, where investors can rendezvous and discuss different topics, their knowledge and experiences over time as the website and members keep on adding on to the community. This will be a big part of the forums and the website as a whole. I look forward to building a community of investors where we're all looking forward to learn and grow together. And how to manage the intangible. These are going to be other forums that are going to be a further extension than just talking about stocks. And that's the first one that we have. And we're going to talk about credit, what entails with a credit score, and so forth. So here are the two member options. You have to go to the members option section to choose one or the other to gain access fully to the website. And down below you can see what each one will give you access to. Now this is completely optional, but I do want every single investor and viewer to be aware that the website is up and running. I will put the link down below in the description of this video. So here we are with TDAC stock. So I want to talk about this stock a little bit. There's some things that have to do more with speculation right now and hope than anything else. And this stock was way down here, close to around $9 and some change, ran up to about 13 and some change, fell back down to about 11 and some change, and we're back up in the 13, almost hitting $14 range. So as the end of the year is coming, the speculation and hope is growing tremendously due to the fact that there's going to be a merger. This is going to be big news as we go into it, but there's something that I read back from November 19th. I can't find anything in newer news. If anybody can find it, I would highly appreciate it. But right now, this is the only news I found talking about who they're merging with and as much as information as possible about it. I don't think anything new has came out since. And there's one last thing, and it's at the end of the whole article that I found very interesting. So this one is, if you like to go ahead and try to get in on early and take a risk, this is a risk-taking stock or SPAC right now for when it merges and if it does merge. So let's look at some things here. Before we go over the whole entire article that I found, this is what stood out to me the most. This is some big deal here. This is big stuff. So we have here institutional ownerships, right? It grew in quarter 3 and it grew 18 million in quarter 4 and 15 million of it has been sold. So it's like it's at a break even. It didn't do much this quarter, right? There's a lot more outflows happening as this is going up. So I found that interesting. So we have here a total amount of Glazer Capital and everyone before it. You know, they've been part of it for a while. And also you can see here in August that Glazer Capital took a stake. But here we are seeing the fact that on the 13th, right, of last month, you could see that Glazer Capital took a position, right? So once they did that, there's something here on insider trades, and I don't know how updated this is or if this needs to be updated again or if it's showing us clearly here. If we look at the 13th of November, right? Let's see if it even allows us to see the 13th. Right? Yeah, it just jumps over to the 18th. There's some days here. This right here, this whole section right here kind of has me a little bit confused. It kind of jumps around like the whole month almost, and then it gets you there. But let's go back to what we were seeing there so we can get an overview here. And it's still interesting. I think it's super, super interesting. So November 13th, they have this total amount of shares that they added. And according to this, it shows August, they had this many shares. So let's look back now and see here that there's a lot in volume. All right, that's shares volume, but total amount in monetization in money, it was 15 million sold in total. So when you go to insider trades, the most recent trade, which happened on the 1st of December, and if they got a large position of almost 1 million shares, right, on the 13th, it was back here somewhere around $10. And on the 1st, you could see it was one of the first peaks that this stock reached. I mean, it went almost to $13. Now, they weren't the only ones that sold, this whole entire effect here that we see. But when you look at the volume, I mean, it could almost constitute to the whole entire 700,000 shares. I mean, their volume's pretty low. But when we go there, you could see it. They sold almost half of their total position that quick. Now, from that point forward, either if you were an investor that was watching this or knew about this, you would have said, okay, this is probably a discount. That is one way to look at it, and look where we're at now. The only question is, when will there be another institutional investor getting ready to sell, right, on this position before the merger? Or is this going to continue to run? We need to watch this very closely because volume is really low, and that 700,000 amount of shares being sold at 12.67, I mean, they took a small profit. I mean, when you think about it, it's small because it was only $2 per share, almost $3. And the reason why I say small is because if they own that many shares and they believed in the company, they would stay through, and they even believed in the merger, they would stay through to let that grow even more. Unless they're trying to get unrealized profits and turn them into real profits and now ride the wave again. We'll have to see, but there's no update here on any purchases. And that is what I'm noticing very important here. And you can see how these total amounts of insider buying and selling is. And they sold more than buy. There was no buys. So that raises a red flag for me right now to watch this. And let's talk about the merger. So Trinity Acquisition Corp announces binding letter of intent to combine with lottery.com. So lottery.com is a big deal. It was founded in 2015. It's the leading platform to play the lottery from your phone, offering official state-sanctioned lottery games like Powerball, Mega Millions, and state games in the US and around the world. Like, this is a big deal. It's almost like going to shift the way people buy the lotto. So if you've ever seen people at the lottery stations and gas stations in different locations, they would go and they would do these lines. I don't know if you've ever seen when the Powerball or the lottery is like really high, or there's like a special event going on with a special new game or something like that. A lot of people jump in and they want to, go and do these lines, and they're going to buy a lotto, and they buy multiple lottos at a time. For it to go mobile, it's like from the convenience of one's home, they can just order their lotto ticket, and it's going to be much more accessible for people. And it's going to change the way things are done. Now, it's going to affect these businesses because these businesses get a really, really small, I think, commission or bonus, or a small portion or fraction. We're talking about pennies, right, to the dollar. But for every person that goes and buys, they get it for distributing it. But now it's going to take away that. Well, it's going to keep existing, but things are going to be shifting now. And since everything has slightly changed in the world, it's going to make it much more convenient for those that buy lotto or buy anything that has to do with lottery.com. So it makes it more accessible. It's right now in not as many states as they would plan to be. They're only in Texas and 9 other states, but they plan on being in more than 20 states over the country, right? And several new countries in 2021. So they're expanding. So when you look at that stock, there's potential there. There's expansion there. But they're talking about lottery.com. They're not talking about, when you read this whole thing, which is the one thing I noticed about the whole entire thing, right? As we look at it, literally lottery.com, 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 all the way through. And then I got to the end of it, the transaction overview. If anybody has an update on this, you're more than welcome to share it. I searched everywhere. I couldn't find it. I just was going off of this, and this is what really stood out to me. And to see this run, and there's still uncertainty, either it's a lot of speculation and hope, or someone inside, right, or investors like the ones listed that have to do a lot with it, because lottery.com is supported by a strong advisory board and notable investors within the venture capital, gaming, entertainment industries, including Jason Robbins from DraftKings, Peter Diamandis, right, chairman of X Prize Foundation, Ben Narasin, right, venture partner of NEA. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but the president of the 49ers, Matthew, of Panther of Fifth Era, and don't know how to pronounce that as well. And then we got Jamie Gold, the poker philanthropist, right? Excuse me for mispronouncing that, but there's some big things going on here. Just with X Prize Foundation and DraftKings, it tells you a lot. But again, it keeps talking about lottery.com, and it doesn't talk much about Trendant Acquisition and lottery.com being together. They're just hyping it up, talking about all the great things about lottery.com, and they entered into a binding letter of intent. That was the most important thing that stood out to me, intent. So there's an intent. But let's go ahead and read the transaction overview. And that's why also this came out on the 19th. And I find it interesting that insider selling is happening even days after that on December 1st. That's what we need to watch for and pay very close attention to. I want every single investor to be aware of this. I'm not here to be, not optimistic, but pessimistic about it or towards it. But I like to be aware of things, and I just want to share this with you guys. Like, these SPACs, they're very volatile, speculative. Woof, man. There's a lot of speculation. I can say speculation, but I can't say speculative. But speculation. There's a lot of speculation with these SPACs, and you need to get as much information as possible. That's why, if by any chance there's an updated version of any of this and anybody wants to rebuttal everything I'm saying, you're more than welcome to correct me and say, hey, this is the link down below in the comment section. I want every single investor to be aware, and your information, was valid, but look at everything that is been moving forward. I just couldn't find anything. So I really appreciate that if you guys can do that. So here we are with the proposed transaction overview. So contemplates that lottery.com's share stockholders will roll 100% of their equity into the business combination with no minimum cash requirement. The parties intend to execute, right? And they're in a letter of intent, binding letter of intent, to execute a definitive agreement and currently anticipate closing the business combination in the first quarter of 2021. No assurances, very important, can be made that the parties will successfully negotiate and enter into a definitive agreement, or that the proposed transaction will be consummated on the terms of time frame currently contemplated or at all. Any transaction that would be subject to the approval of the two company boards, regulatory and shareholder approvals, as well as other customary conditions. So, there's a lot of speculation here. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And there's still the anticipation of closing the business combination in the first quarter of 2021. You see, there's other SPACs I've talked about in this website that have actually came to more of an agreement already, or they're seeming more, definitive, right? Like it's actually been to the exact concrete agreement saying, okay, we're going to proceed forward and we are merging. Like PaySafe, I talked about it in one of my videos. I believe that one, it's pretty concrete. Things can fall apart from here to that day, but I think they've made it to much further steps than where currently Tdac is sitting with the binding letter of intent to combine with lottery.com. So far, it's a letter of intent. If you guys want to do more research on what that means compared to the binding of actually making a definitive agreement, is two big different things. And I really want every single investor to be aware of it before jumping in on this or making a decision. Now, if you're a firm believer that it's going to happen and you want to take the risk, that the risk is there, and that's what the whole market is about. The earlier you get in, the bigger the reward. But this right now is kind of in that gray area. And again, if anybody wants to correct me or update everything that I'm saying with an updated article, I would appreciate it. But it has to be a statement saying that they've already executed the definitive agreement and they're anticipating closing the business combination first quarter of 2021. So it's not like they're just anticipating. They're stating they came to a definitive agreement, and in the first quarter of 2021, the merger will occur. It has to be much more concrete words and not these broader terms that we're seeing here. Because this is from, obviously, November 19th. I've been looking everywhere before I did this video, but when I read this and I haven't found anything concrete, it stood out to me the most. The fact that the transaction overview is being overlooked by many, and I want everyone to be aware of it. I just wanted to let every single investor that is in my channel be aware of this, because sometimes we miss it, or we do our own research, we read about it, and it's great. I love everything they have to say about lottery.com, but lottery.com can stand just well without Tdac. That's what I want everybody to be aware of, because all they talk about here is lottery.com. Now, will lottery.com merge with someone else if they don't merge with Tdac? I think that's going to be one of the biggest anticipations for all investors to wait for, because, they just talk about how great lottery.com is, how it's growing, and they're the leader and pioneer in lottery industry, and they have a great board of directors. There's so many things. But Tdac is trying to get into that letter of intent, but there's no binding yet. They call it the binding letter of intent, but letter of intent. There's still intention. There's an intentionality, but there's no definitive agreement and closed in transactions. So we'll have to see. I look forward to seeing if you guys have any updates. I couldn't find any. I wanted to find some to kind of talk about this. What I found very interesting, and now the reason why this is running up is because there is a definitive agreement, but so far this is looking like a lot of speculation and hope, and that's something that I want every single investor to be aware of that comes across this video, that was considering this one or is in this one, to definitely do your research, do your due diligence. And if you're a risk taker, and even though you see that there is no definitive agreement, or you believe and feel very inclined that it is going to go through, that the fact that they've made it to the point of a letter of intent, it makes sense. And even though institutions are actually selling, as this was running up, and if they already did a letter of intent and they felt confident about it, they would stay, and it still doesn't raise a red flag, I would highly suggest playing it smart and just watch it carefully and watch the chart overall. And I'm not here to tell you to buy, sell, or hold in any way. I'm not here to discourage anyone from this one, but I did want to point it out. And I like to be as honest and clear as possible. So does this have room? I think it does. I think this has a lot of potential, but definitive agreement needs to come into action. I can't find anything about it. So I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. We're going to have to watch how this plays out. Right now, there's a lot of speculation and hope if this is the last time that this was talked about. and they're still in the process of a letter of intent. So we'll see. If you found this video helpful and informative, please do so and subscribe. Don't forget to click on the bell to turn on all notifications and not miss a single video that I post. Share this with your friends and community, and don't forget to hit the like button to let me know you watch this video. Thank you guys so much for watching.